The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Father Corey Stika. Hi, Father Corey.
How's it going, Dom?
Very well, thanks. And Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hello, hello.
It is Holy Week. It is a busy time of year, and you both work for parishes, and so I thank you both for making time for us this week. We have some good stuff we want to talk about, but first, we have some feedback from our last episode where we talked about emulators and retro gaming, and the first one comes from Ezra, who he's a preteen. He said in his email. And he says, have you heard about RetroPie? It's basically an emulator for old DOS games. It runs Commodore 64, Nintendo, and lots of other emulators. I installed it on my Raspberry Pi 400 that I bought late last year. Unfortunately, I'm only 12. So that's what his age. I'm only 12 and don't have any old games I used to play with. So I asked my mom about her games when she used to play, which was Frogger and Donkey Kong, which work really well with the Raspberry Pi. I now have a little retro gaming setup with an old USB gamepad I bought for pretty cheap. Amazing episode. Well, thanks, Ezra. We had fun.
And RetroPie is a great way to do the retro gaming. Like you said, you can run Nintendo 64 or Nintendo. Well, you can actually, I think you can start to run Nintendo 64 now. That's still kind of weak, but Commodore 64, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega. Anything really with the RetroPie is powerful enough to run anything like from the 90s earlier.
I've got a Raspberry I like to maybe do something with. Yeah.
And it's nice too because RetroPie, what it is, it's got a really nice interface where it's all joystick control for moving between the different systems. So you select the system you want, you select the game you want, and it just starts it.
And you can find USB gamepads all over the place on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
In flea markets, that sort of thing.
Good old Xbox, the good old Xbox 360, Xbox One type controller runs great, usually.
And the only thing I know about these games is anything 90s or, earlier. Right. After that, forget it. These are the only ones I know. I'd love to play Donkey Kong again.
So, then, Joanne, you're not going to be as much interested in this next email because we also got another email from...
No, I'll sit it out.
Okay. So we got an email from Chris who writes, this episode brought back a lot of memories of college where I spent a lot of time learning and using emulators. You mentioned the ones for DOS, but I remember using quite a few for various consoles. Now, I understand there's some copyright issues, but the one I really enjoyed was the MAME project. The idea was to emulate the specific board so that that way it had the same glitches and all. Very fascinating, trying to get controllers and games to work in order to play some of those really old arcade games. What's interesting is how that started my venture into virtualization, as I figured that was the same thing, but quickly learned that virtualization is completely different. That's true. That's a whole nother topic and maybe another episode. Overall, I was glad that you encourage people to look at the command line, as the GUI always has limitations plus some speed restrictions. I agree. Once you become a command line jockey, if you get good at it, it gets really fast. I remember using a lot of older DOS games and applications where it was way faster to enter data or move around using only the keyboard. I'm even one who still prefers to play any first-person shooter with a keyboard and mouse. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, as a Unix junkie, command line is your savior. As far as computer is concerned, everything command line. As much as you can. So
right, excellent. Both of those. I thought we talked about MAME in a previous episode. I'm sure it's come up, but I didn't see it in the notes. But I'm sure it's come up. But it's a good mention.
Yeah, and MAME stands for Multi Arcade Machine Emulator, and that works, by the way, on Raspberry Pi. It works on RetroPie as well.
Right.
So
right.
That's one of the systems it can do.
Yes. Like a lot of the game cabinets, you remember from the old arcades. I mean, now I'm really showing my age, but a lot of those game cabinets you might find on there, like Galaga and that sort of stuff.
So, and I know I mentioned this before, but I have an original 1977 Moon Patrol game cabinet.
Oh, nice!
It's just a cabinet that they then the company that owned it, Coin-Op company, repurposed it as a Street Fighter 2 cabinet.
Oh, wow.
And that board is still in there. But I'm the reason why I have this cabinet is I want to use it for RetroPie with MAME and all these other emulators.
Nice.
So I can have an actual arcade cabinet where I can play actual arcade games.
That would be a cool project. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I like that. I want to do more with my Pi, and I gotta make the time to do it because it's just there's so much you can do.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I was reading about a guy who has a Raspberry Pi connected to a battery that when he would fly, he takes it along with him, and it works as a server for his environment that he uses with his laptop. It's just kind of wild on a plane.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both, Ezra and Chris, for your emails and your feedback. We love to get feedback, and we love to hear from listeners, and we love to hear these interesting ideas. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So let's move on to our primary topic for today, and we want to talk about something called Fleeceware. And this shareware, this freeware, it's one of those terms. But Fleeceware is another kind of scam that's out there. And what it is they're apps usually for phone or tablet, the mobile apps that trick you. They trick you into spending a lot more money than you intend. I think that might be is that a good description?
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds like a good way to describe it.
Yeah, the idea is to suck as much money out as they can. Now, they're not strictly malware. Like malware is usually apps that are they don't do what they say. Their whole intent is to do something bad to your system to make it insecure, that sort of thing. These are apps that usually they do what they say, more or less. They might be poorly programmed, but they usually do what they say. But they just hide the cost, the monetary cost from you, and so that you can unknowingly rack up big charges on your card. So what do you guys think of for just off the top? Have you ever run into an app that you found out was fleeceware?
I don't know if I ever have hit a fleeceware app, but a lot of times these are things that are like clones of other apps, like let's say, remember Flappy Bird, the famous click the bird to fly over. Well, all of a sudden there were 500 clones of it, and some of them had a to continue pay $5 type thing, stuff like that, just off the top of my head. So a lot of times they're really cheap, clearly bad clones of software that's legitimate. So we probably run into them that way, where you kind of look at them and go, yeah, there's something wrong with this. Get rid of it,
And a lot of times they're not, the news is about the ones that like they hide $500 charges or something. But a lot of times if the scammer is smart, they'll hit you with, $2 here, $5 there, $10 there, and they sneak the charges in so it builds up slowly over time. Fleece you a little bit at a time instead of trying to get it all at once. It's easier to see. But you're right. When an app becomes popular or viral, I think of also like the Widgetsmith on the iOS, which when widgets became big and people were making their phones aesthetic, it was a thing. I don't know why they call it aesthetic, but that's what it called, with specialty icons, that sort of stuff. There were all these widget clones apps, and they were doing the same sort of thing. Oh, in order to keep doing this, you got to pay 5 or 10 or whatever. And it becomes hard to find the actual app that you're trying to get. And they have, that's the other thing, is they often have deceptive names, like Flippy Bird,
yeah,
the
exactly.
real Flappy one, that sort of stuff. So, Joanne, have you run into you at all, anything like that?
No, because I'm very diligent, and any app that I put on my phone or my iPad, I'm really diligent, but I have run into friends who have come up with, well, I got this app and now it's asking me, and I'm like, no, yes. Don't do it.
Delete it.
Well, because they, like with the Flappy Bird thing, they got something called Flippy Bird. Didn't quite hear Flappy Bird.
Right.
So now they're like, well, now what do I do? It's asking me all kinds of things, and it wants me to give it money. And I'm like, no, don't, please just delete that thing. Get it off your phone.
Yeah. And often, in addition to sucking money out of you, it's sucking your data too. I mean, that's the other thing, is your data is valuable, and it also wants to get your data, and it wants all these permissions and that sort of stuff too. So that's another clear sign. In fact, we should talk about ways to avoid getting tricked into downloading these apps. If you because we want legitimate apps. So how do we avoid the Fleeceware apps? So the first step, I think, is to figure out how to tell if I've already got one of these, and what are some clear signs. So Father Corey, what would be a way on Android to see what you've purchased and what you might have subscriptions? Because subscriptions is the key.
Right. Yeah. You can go into your phone and you can look at what you've purchased in the past. You can look at what are your current subscriptions, and it's all through the Play Store, which is their, Apple calls it the App Store. Google calls it the Play Store because Apple copyrighted App Store. So,
yes.
But Play Store, and you go in and you look at your account, and there's a place where you can look at your purchase history. The article from Lifehacker that we're going off of actually shows the steps you take. It's really easy. It's just you go in the Play Store, you click the little hamburger icon, which is the little menu icon, and there's a subscription button, you go in your account, there's a purchase history, and you can look at what you bought before. And that's something I think that's important to do once in a while, is to go and look. And I mean, I did it, and I'm fine. Everything that's there is everything I expect, but once in a while you might go, oh, I don't remember buying that. And then go back and track through. Okay, now I remember this. Okay, or oops, better get rid of that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Is actually, I every once in a while, like in preparation for this episode, I was going through the steps on my iPhone, and I went to check my subscriptions, my active subscriptions, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not actually really using that app, and that has an active subscription. I'm going to cancel that, and that's probably a pretty good thing to do every once in a while. Apple's pretty good. Google's probably pretty good about when there's a renewal of a subscription coming up, you can have it send you emails to, hey, there's a renewal coming up. Is this something you want? Pay attention to those emails too, especially. But yeah, that's a good point. Joanne, how about on iOS? What's the best way to check these things?
Well, on iOS, when you go into settings, it's that lovely Apple ID. Under that thing, it contains a lot of information, and you'll find subscriptions especially. So if you already have a subscription, you can look there and see if this is... I like to do it every once in a while anyway. Because if I'm looking to get, to sort of balance my budget, I want to see what I've got active. And it's nice that Apple puts them in one place, tells you the date that it's coming up, tells you can cancel it right there if you want to. I have a couple coming up, and I have one coming up tomorrow, but I think I'm going to try Apple Fitness for one more month. After Holy Week, let's see if I can actually get into it. But if you want, what I love is if you want to go back and check your past purchases. Now you go, again, you're doing this through the App Store. And what you want to do is go into purchased, and it will show you everything that you've purchased, like since the dawn of iOS time. And I think a lot of people already have apps on their phones that they really don't need anymore, or they don't realize have reached end of life. And even if, I stumble onto them a couple of times myself, because I get a lot of them to use in certain situations. I forget they're there. So when I go to use it, it's like, this thing is dead. So it's nice, I used to say once a year, but now I'm into since everybody's doing it, when the clocks change. When the clocks change, you should go, like you change your batteries, you should go take a look at your phone and say, what do I have here that I really don't need? Because it is sucking both data and battery life just by sitting there.
Yeah, and storage space on your phone. Yeah.
For those of you who have a million pictures, yes.
Yes. Well, one thing, so I want to point out, so when you open up the App Store to get to purchased, look in the top right, you should see a picture of yourself or an icon, if you've set a picture, and you tap on that, that's your account, and then you'll see purchased and subscriptions there. And if you have a family sharing account, when you click on purchased, you'll see my purchases and then family purchases. So you can see what everybody else is buying too. If you're the primary on your family account, if you're one of the adults on it.
Right. And when you hit on that picture ID, and it'll also bring up something that I found very interesting. I didn't know till this article, which was purchase history.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's nice, because you get to see, did I actually pay for this app, or was it, 0 balance? Like because I have T-Mobile, I get MLB for free. So I just had that installed, but it says 0. But the next one I had just bought a few days ago charged me. So it tells me how much I was billed, and then if I want to hit that, I can actually see the purchase order.
Right. And it shows everything, not just apps. It'll show anything. Like on your Apple ID, it shows all like movies and your monthly Apple account, iCloud account charge, and all that sort of stuff. So everything's on there. So which is
and one thing too, and I believe both iOS and I know Android does this. They're actually legally required to give you a 24-hour grace period.
Yes.
Where if you buy something and immediately change your mind, they are required to allow you to cancel that purchase, return that purchase, and that's how you go through. On iOS or on Android, I know because I've done it before. You do an in-app purchase and then you immediately back it out there.
Right. Which I should have done. I got caught on a thing where I accidentally. This is a situation where I accidentally entered my credit card for a free trial period. And we're gonna talk about this in a second and things to avoid, and forgot to end the free trial and then missed the period where I could dispute it. And so it's a learning experience. I chalk it up to I paid to learn something, and so maybe we should talk about that, the ways to avoid getting stuck with this stuff. So the first one I would mention is to be wary of apps that you see advertised on social media. Now that doesn't mean that every app that you see on an Instagram ad is going to be trying to fleece you, but that's where a lot of these show up. So just be wary. And that's the thing, is we're also, I think that's to step back a second. We're not saying don't ever trust apps that fall into these categories, but you just be wary. And in the aggregate, as a number of negatives pop up, it should make you more and more wary of an app. But that's my first one: is be wary of apps that are advertised on social media, in like Instagram feeds and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of these games you see advertised. They sponsor YouTubers and they're all over Facebook and all this stuff. There's a reason why they can afford to do that, because they might not be technically Fleeceware, but they're very heavy on promoting the in-app purchases. So games are really bad for that. The quote unquote free to play games, they might be free to play, but they're pay to win.
Right. And sometimes they're paid to keep playing, because you could keep playing, but unless you pay, you can't get anywhere. It becomes frustrating, and it's like it's only $1. It's only $2.
Yeah. If you want to make your next move, you can buy this $1 upgrade that lets you move every 4 hours instead of 8 hours.
Right.
Yeah, see, I'm a patient woman. I will play things that are free, but the minute you start wanting to charge me, I will either wait until it recharges or I just delete. I very rarely play with things, and this is one of the reasons why. I feel like all they want to do, and I shouldn't generalize, but they just want to keep sucking you in and sucking your time. So I'm very wary.
There's a reason why Fortnite and Pokemon are billion-dollar businesses, because they're getting, like, if they just sold them like for $20 up front, they'd make a lot less money than the amount of money they're making off of selling little bits here and there.
Well, and something like Pokemon, like the card game, obviously you're buying cards. That's kind of one thing, because you can play that. You can buy all the cards. It's the same thing with Magic the Gathering, the online Magic the Gathering. You can buy the cards you want, and you can play that game forever with those cards. It's a different thing altogether, where something like Farmville was a bad, which now that Flash is gone, it's gone too, but there's plenty of other.
Yeah, I meant Pokemon Go, by the way, which is
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, which is not to say that it's a terrible thing, but you got to know what you're doing when you get into it. You got to know, what your limits are.
Admittedly, I've got a very short patience for that kind of stuff, where the second you say, well, if you want to continue, you need to buy these coins, delete. Gone. Right. I'm not interested at that point.
Yeah, you got to be strict with yourself, and you got to set you got to know your limits and be clear in it. And frankly, by the way, this is one of the reasons why I like Apple Arcade, because it's $5 a month, and they're not allowed to have in-app purchases, no cost. So there's no frustrations with, I can't keep going until I pay more money, and I can feel good about my kids playing some of these games, because I'm not worried that they're going to accidentally buy a $300 in-app purchase on the thing. So that's one of the reasons why I'm okay with Apple Arcade.
Yeah, and one thing, with my rant, I'll go on the other side of those. I like games that they've got ads, but then you can just one-time payment and you'll never see an ad again.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm
Crossing
okay with
Road
that.
is one that's like that, where you buy one upgrade, even if it's a $1 character,
Yeah.
no more ads. I like that. More games need to do that.
But what I'm finding is maybe not so much in games, but apps in general, they're all moving to subscription.
Mhm.
Right.
So they want your money once a year. And yeah, there are some things I will pay for once a year. But then there are other things I'm like, no, I think I can find another app. Like the Weather Channel, for example, wants you to get into a subscription so you can actually get the temperature of some places. And I'm like, no, really? Seriously?
You're not,
So
you're not the only
I'll just go
weather
to the
app.
National Weather Service. Yeah,
Right.
I'll just go to the National Weather Service for that. Thanks.
Well, and your phone
Already paid
comes
for
with
that
with a weather app. Like there are some things I'm willing to pay subscriptions, and other things like because the pros and cons of the devil's advocate or the on that is programmers. It's expensive to support an app. It can be expensive to support, especially a popular app, and trying to get people to pay, to have a revenue stream so I can continue to be in business is hard. And so I get why a subscription, I'm okay with some subscriptions. Let me just put it that way, because the developer has shown me that they're willing to constantly improve the app and I'm getting value for my money. On the other hand, there are some things they want subscriptions and they're ridiculous amount of money. And I'm like, I am not what was it? Ulysses, I think it is, which is a writing app. And they want all this extra money. Like I need to pay a subscription for my phone to have it on my phone and a subscription on my iPad separately. And I have to qualify that because I'm not certain it was Ulysses. It might have been another app, but there was an app that was doing that. I'm like, there are a million other text editors out there. I'm not going to do this, that sort of thing.
And to be clear, too, we're not just talking about places that have in-app purchases, because there are, again, legitimate, great in-app purchases.
Right.
There are great subscription services. Microsoft 365, if you need Office, is a great purchase, which you can use all over the place, and it's reasonable. We are talking about these apps that they trick you, or they put really onerous restrictions to get you to spend money to use these apps. And a lot of times they're just not worth it. And again, I'd argue some of these free to play games are very much fleeceware, because they get you playing the game, and if you want to keep playing the game, you got to spend more money. If you want to win the game, you got to spend more money.
Right. Games are where it's worse. That's why we keep bringing them up. But there are other ones like calendar apps, shopping list apps, contact, address book apps, and especially things that are relatively easy to program a bad version of it, so that the scammer doesn't have to put too much effort into it, and where they can just hide in the crowd. And I think that's. Let's mention some other things to look out for. Keep an eye on the ratings for the app. Now, ratings are not always completely indicative of a quality of an app, but again, what are those things to keep an eye on? If you see a lot of people going, this app was terrible, it was poorly programmed, it tricked me into buying a subscription, look at the ratings. Yeah, and reviews. Yeah,
ratings and reviews you got to be careful with, because, of course, you'll get the ones of, I don't like this company. The app is fine. The app works great, but the company is run by a, blank, blank, blank.
Yeah, they're reviewing something other than the app.
Right. And you see that on Amazon a lot. It's like, this person, this is by its third-party company, and they didn't ship it out in 3 weeks. The product's great,
yeah,
but it took 3 weeks to get here.
And be careful of reading reviews that have bad English in them, because sometimes they're not English speakers. And I think that happens more so on Amazon than anything else. Some people are paid to review things and skew things a certain way.
Yes, if you see 5-star or 4-star reviews that are very poorly phrased or look very similar to the one above it, the one below it, they may be scam reviews. Yeah.
And I think both app stores, both Google and Apple, are good at getting those weeded out when they're reported.
Yes, they're trying. It's a lot of work. I mean, there's millions of apps. So one thing to do is both app stores will show you what in-app purchases are available for the app, and the most popular in-app purchases as well. So if you see one where it's like you could spend $500 on an in-app purchase, and it's not something that's worth $500. I mean, I could legitimately consider maybe something would be worth $500, I guess. But keep an eye on those in-app purchase lists. They're there for a reason. The stores make that information available to help you. Also, be wary of free trial periods that, for one, ask for your credit card up front. Not that that's a bad thing, but if they do, that means you've, like me, you've got to remember to, I should have done, put a note in your reminders, before the trial is up, cancel or agree to continue. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. So be wary of the free trial periods, and also how long of a free trial do you get? Do I get a week? Do I get a month? Do I get 24 hours? Be wary of both those things.
Yeah, and there are legitimate apps that do this as a course, and that's nothing wrong with them. I mean, I wish they wouldn't. I mean, it's not that hard for them to program it to say, hey, your free trial is, have a little splash screen. Your free trial has expired. You need to enter a credit card now. Right.
The first way, the way I mentioned is a way to kind of get money from people who forgot, and I that's kind of slimy. I'm sorry, but it's depending on people to forget, and that's not good business. Yeah, and then look at how long if you have a subscription that you're going to pay for, how long is the subscription period? Do you have to pay every week, $2 a week, $2 a month, $2 a year, and then, or if it's different, $2 a week, $5 a month, $20 a year, and then you got to look at that. Okay, what's the value? How often am I going to use this? Maybe it'd be better if I did a $2 a week, even though it's more annually. But I need to figure out whether I'm going to be using this still in 6 months. That sort of thing. So, think about the subscription period. And then the last bit I would say is, it's sometimes it's easier to tell than others. But is the app constantly having its price changed? It's $2, it's $4, it's $1, it's $3. That's also sometimes a way for a scammer to try to trick people into buying the app at a high period, or to suck a lot of people in at a low price and then raise the price for others, that sort of thing. So again, it's not bad that a developer would want to have a sale on his app to kind of boost sales. That's fine, but just it's another data point to keep in mind.
Well, again, this is something you see with games where they will, okay, you can buy in for the first time for $1. Oh, but now you gotta spend more coins, and so now you gotta pay the $2 level, and now you gotta pay more, and now you gotta get gems instead of coins, and
right. It's a bait and switch in a sense. Any other tips for folks that you think need to know more about this?
I kind of hinted at it, but I personally am not a fan of in-app purchases, and I am very careful when doing it. I've got a couple of games that I do. I have paid in-app. Of all things, Microsoft Solitaire Collection. I think it's on both of them. Yeah. But it's like you get ads unless you pay like $10 a year or something like that. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll pay it. Because I play it every day. It's solitaire. Who doesn't play solitaire? But it really is. If you see an in-app purchase in a game or an app that you're going to use on a regular basis, really look at it carefully. And again, look for another option, because very likely you could find, as we said before, you can find an option that doesn't have the in-app purchase or a much cheaper one, and you're better off in the long run. Just when you see that prompt for an in-app purchase, stop. That's the biggest thing. Stop and look at it. Don't immediately click the, yes, charge to Google Pay. Yes, charge to Apple Pay.
Yes. And now here is a story that is a tale of a warning tale, which is out of Canada. This is a article from CTV News about a grandmother whose 13-year-old grandson asked if he could use her credit card to buy him points for one of his games he plays. She gave him the card. She thought he was going to spend the most. She thought the most he could spend was $15. In over 3 days, he ran up $1,400 in charges. And now her credit card company and the game company, I think it was Sony, says you're responsible for it. And she is. I mean, she didn't do her due diligence of paying attention. She handed a 13-year-old a credit card. What do you expect him to do? Like, he's a child. He's going to misuse it. Like, he doesn't have the judgment in order to use it correctly. We keep seeing these stories of adults, parents, grandparents who end up spending thousands of dollars because they gave a credit card to a kid, essentially.
And one point that this article makes is a good thing to avoid being fleeced by Fleeceware is, instead of using a credit card, buy the Google Play Store bucks, buy the Apple bucks, buy the gift cards, and only use those in the stores. Because you can go to your grocery store. You can go to Target, Walmart. You can go online. You can buy these gift cards and then just enter those gift cards into the account. Okay, you've got $20 this month to spend however you want. That's it. Once that gift card's out, you're done. And the same thing with Sony, with Xbox, same kind of thing. You know, you can do that with Nintendo. You can do that with all those. And that's a great way to avoid that is you just set a limit and say, no, I'm going to buy $20 worth of gift card. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, I feel for her. I do. But the minute you give a teenager a credit card, and what she didn't understand is he doesn't have to put it in for every purchase. He only has to put it in once. So once it's in, he's got carte blanche.
Literally.
Yeah, literally, exactly. So yeah, it's one of those things where, see, when I will pick up free apps that have an in-app purchase, but usually it's a pro version of something. So these apps are good. Okay, don't avoid them, but know what you're doing. And and if you're a grandparent or a parent who just basically wants to keep the kid occupied, which I think could have been happening in this case. Here's my credit card. You got to know what they're doing, because if you don't, you're going to end up paying for it. And I love the last line. He's planning on getting a job when he turns 40. I sure hope he does.
Yes, he's going to pay back his grandma.
And where are the parents? Next question.
Right. Yeah, where's
where
mom
are the
and
parents
dad
in this scenario?
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. I think that's good. If listeners have any questions about any of this, the Fleeceware or in-app purchases or anything like that, we would be happy to entertain those in a future episode. And you can always reach us at technology@sqpn.com. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Marilyn K., Kip C., Stephen G., Jorge M., and Jason K. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. Now is a great time to become a StarQuest patron thanks to a generous gift from a StarQuest supporter. When you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give, the first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor to support all our shows, including this one, making your gift go even further. And we are very, very, very close. We are so close to reaching our goal of $2,000 in new monthly pledges. And the reason we have that goal is we have some new shows we're working on. We have one show that's just on the cusp of being launched that we're very excited about, right, Father Corey?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, very much so.
And we think you'll really enjoy it. We also need to do some website upgrades. If you've been to our website, you know that we need website upgrades and that sort of thing. So won't you help us close the gap? If you've been thinking of becoming a StarQuest patron, now's the time. Visit sqpn.com/give today. So we've got some headlines. We've been talking a lot about virtual reality headsets and virtual reality. And there's an article from the Wall Street Journal this past week that was very interesting. And we've talked also about virtual reality and older folks and seniors using it. And this article is about how nursing homes, assisted living facilities is what we call them now, are using virtual reality headsets to help older folks under controlled conditions, because we talked about that last time, under controlled conditions, to use the headsets to improve their lives. And there's some really interesting stuff. One of the things they talked about is some studies that were done. A team from MIT found that 39% of a group of residents and senior residents reported better perceived overall health after using VR images related to travel and relaxation compared to another group who watched the same images on TV. So interesting. The immersive aspect apparently improves health, which I think is interesting. It was also even more impressive when it came to perceived emotional well-being. 29.7% for the VR group reported improvement compared with just 4.8% of the TV participants. So, and then there was another study that looked at older adults with typical cognitive abilities for their age, with an average age of 68.7 years old. Those who played a specially developed VR game over a 4-week period showed an improvement in long-term memory back to a level similar to younger adults, but those who played the same game on a tablet didn't see the same results, according to the study. So I think it's very interesting how VR being used for these, older folks is helping improve their health, their emotional well-being, and life in general. What do you guys think of this?
Well, if you've spent any time in an assisted living or nursing home, as I have, they do give them a lot of activity. But it's always in the same areas with the same people and the same walkers and the same, I can't hear anything
Yes.
going on. Okay. Giving them something in VR, as long as you don't allow them to stand up and try to walk around, I think gives them the perceived notion that they're not in their same space all the time. And I think that would give them better overall feelings about their health, themselves. I hope they have it when I go. because I'm the one I really loved in this article was the Broadway one. To be able to see a Broadway show as you would normally see it in New York would be wonderful. And I think that brings, especially the older musicals, these are older people, they know these musicals by heart. And yes, when somebody comes in and sings it with them, it's just not the same.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or watches it on TV. Yeah.
Right. So always knowing that they're in the space they're in and getting them out of that space for a little bit with VR. I'd like to see more of this. I'd like to see more, work on this to see, because there's going to be a lot of older people in the next 20, 30 years, and I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's interesting. My high school job was as a nurse's aide in a nursing home, assisted living facility, and one of the biggest concerns is the residents being isolated. Like you said, they're in the same facilities, they're going to the same dining hall, they're going to the same activity room, they're going through the same halls to the same rooms, and there's no variance to their life. And it very much isolates them, especially when they don't have family close by. And anytime that these residents could get out, and I even saw that as a priest when I would go do mass, where they were at the nursing home, and one of the residents, oh yeah, we're going to the grocery store, or we're going out to eat. We're going over to the diner for lunch or something like that. Even just something as simple as that, something we don't think of, except for last year because of COVID, but something before last year, we never thought anything of, I'm going to go to the cafe and grab a burger, never thought anything of it. But for them, that was a big deal. And I can see this being expanded, not just for watching, performances of a play or, again, doing like a VR game, but can you imagine being able to, as the technology develops, eventually we'll be able to do basically Skype over VR. And can you imagine for these residents being able to talk to their children, their grandchildren, and it looks like they're sitting in a living room talking with them? I mean, that could be incredible for them. Where, their grandchild is 2,000 miles away on the other side of the country, but right now, at least for this next hour, they're right across the
They're in the same room
them virtually.
Yep.
That's great. That would be a great improvement and development. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, this sort of improvement in emotional well-being and mental health and just health in general. There's a lot of people who over the past year who are single and live alone and have not been out and don't have contact with other people and haven't been able to go anywhere. I think of all these people living in the big cities in their apartments. A headset, a VR headset, is a way to get out and go places.
You get the person who lives in their little motel or little
studio?
Efficiency apartment, studio apartment, and their only person-to-person interaction is the Uber Eats guy.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So it says that the most popular genres have been travel, animals, and music, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they're not doing Beat Saber or that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Just don't get up.
Don't get up. Yeah, and a lot of these sets, I don't know if they're using the consumer versions or if these are specialty. It looks like these might be specialty versions, but even the consumer versions, there are settings where you could do a lot of apps sitting down. One thing I'll mention is Pat, who is also on the show a lot, she mentioned she got me interested in a Facebook group for Oculus Quest users over the age of 40. And it's a lot of people who are not, these youngins, doing this crazy, athletic stuff. We're just trying to figure out how the tech works. And it's a lot of people who aren't very familiar with tech. And so it's a pretty good group for if you just want to dip your toe in without feeling awkward and weird among these young people. It's a nice place to start. All right, let's move on to our next headline. This one is Amazon. Amazon is, let's just, every week it's another big tech company that's behaving badly. So, this is some good and some bad. This is not a clearly bad in one way or other, I think, but this is what it is. Amazon is requiring all its delivery drivers nationwide to sign a biometric consent form that gives the company permission to use AI-powered cameras, machine learning cameras, to access their location, movement, and biometric data, presumably while they're on the job. It's not like 24 hours a day. The form requires them to agree to facial recognition and other biometric data to ensure that they're doing things like wearing their seatbelts, obeying traffic laws. It monitors, let's see, vehicle location and movement, miles driven, speed, acceleration, braking, turns, following distance, and also what they're doing in the car. So if they're not wearing a seatbelt, if they appear distracted, if they're tired, so if they're yawning, which being tired while driving could be unsafe. Monitoring their body and facial movements. Some drivers are saying, I don't want it to be micromanaged. And I could see that. And but what do y'all think of this? I mean, on the one hand, safer drivers. On the other hand, privacy.
I think I'm just bewildered at the fact that we either have to legislate or document every single thing people should be doing out of common sense. If you're working for a company, you should be following their rules. You should be there's always a bad actor here or there, but this isn't one or two. This is like a lot. Because they wouldn't be doing something like this if they hadn't had, maybe hundreds of complaints from people being cut off by Amazon vans, by people watching their stuff get thrown on their porch, like I have, things like that. But I can't believe we have to dictate or be big brother over this. People should know when you do a job, you should do it well. And here's the parameters of the job, and you do it. Maybe I'm just a Pollyanna, but gee, And
I know there's concern with Amazon's rules and how they handle these contractors. These aren't even direct Amazon employees. It's a lot like FedEx does as well, where some places it's a contracting company that provides the drivers and the vehicles and everything, and FedEx, handles everything beyond that. But this is an issue that is being raised in all the transportation sectors. I know it's in trucking. It's a big issue of, if you're driving the over-the-road trucks, that if you're working for a big company, they've got cameras. Railroads, I know it's a big concern that they'll have in-cab cameras. They already have cameras that focus out of the locomotive onto the tracks ahead, but they also want to have it so it's watching the drivers themselves, the engineers themselves. And so this is kind of the same thing. And let's be honest, those of us who worked in offices, you're like, yeah, you have no expectation of privacy in an office. Why do you think you're going to have one in a van?
Exactly.
But again, there is a counterpoint, though, that Amazon is known for having some very ridiculous requirements at times. You got 10 seconds to make this delivery, but you've got to do it very nicely and gently and walk both ways and don't for speed and so.
That's a big part
both
of
sides
it.
to the argument.
Yeah. If Amazon hadn't already been caught doing bad labor practices, this might not have been as big a deal. But so I think that's part of why it's a big deal. They did say that when they tested this technology last year, April to October, they saw a decrease in accidents, 48%. Stop sign violations decreased 20%. Driving without a seatbelt decreased 60%. Distracted driving decreased 45%. I mean, that's a lot. It doesn't say how much they were. I mean, when you're talking about statistics, you got to understand, 60% or 48% can be a sound like a lot, but if it's like from 5 to 3, that's not as big of a deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, or 5 to 2. So you have to kind of take things with a grain of salt a little bit, but what they're saying is it's decreased by, they've seen improvements.
I think I just go back to it's work ethic, and it's just a lack of work ethic. My husband and I discuss this quite a bit because we're older and we're watching what's happening when you hire younger people and their expectations of how they should do their job. can sometimes be different than your expectations of how you want them to do the job.
Yeah. And to be clear,
So-
it's not a particular generation. It's always that way with young people who don't have work
True.
experience. They come
Right.
in and they need to learn that there's a work ethic you have to learn. And it behooves parents to teach your kids about work ethic before they get their first job.
That's what I was going to say, because my parents taught me, and because they were depression aged, teenagers, they taught me how to have a work ethic and to be happy and to not so much be happy, but to be proud of whatever I do, how big or how small. And I think that's gotten lost in translation for maybe 2 or 3 generations, because everybody wants the big job where they can get the big bucks and do big
Very
things
little.
and
For very little work.
For very right, exactly.
Yeah, they want the easy.
And there is a spiritual side to this too. Of everything we do should be for the glory of God. And this is I've talked before. I like Opus Dei, the message of Opus Dei, and Saint Josemaria Scriva because of this. It's even when you're doing your tedious job of driving the Amazon van around and putting packages on people's porches and in their mailboxes, do it for the glory of God.
I agree. I think
And you
it's
might
a really
be
good
making
point.
someone happy when you bring that package to them who can't get out. I mean, they don't make the dots. They don't connect them.
I mean, it makes my kids happy. They love every box that comes. It's like Christmas Day every day, even if it's shampoo. They're just like, what's in the box?
For me too. I mean, for me too. Come on.
So awesome.
I got a new toy.
Right. All right. So our last headline is the experiment of the release of big movies in streaming and in theaters at the same time is, at least for Warner Brothers, is going to end in 2022. This year they were releasing their big hits, the Wonder Woman 84, Godzilla vs. King Kong, Mortal Kombat, Suicide Squad, Dune, Matrix 4. These are all releasing simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters this year. With the day of release is the same in both. And we've talked about this on this show and on Secrets of Movies and TV shows, the whole movies in theaters in 2020, 2021. But Warner Brothers said they've reached a new deal with one of the big theater chains, Regal, that next year, in 2022, they will start having exclusive release first in theaters, and then a 45-day theater exclusivity window instead of the 90 days that existed before. So you won't be able to stream right away for 45 days, but it will be quicker than it was in the past. Paramount has said that they're doing this, and I think Universal has also said that they're going back to this. We haven't heard about what Disney is doing. They've been putting things on Disney Plus, and you can pay $30 to get it early access. In that case, which may or may not be worthwhile to you, not for me. This was Star Wars, so that's a whole other thing. So, what do y'all think of this? Does it sound like a good idea? Is this doomed to failure eventually? Is streaming the way of the future? What do y'all think?
Did we ever think that they'd just want to stay streaming forever? No. They knew they were going to try to go back to the theaters. And I love seeing a picture on a big screen. But if anything taught me anything in this pandemic, I'm not so sure I want to be sitting in a room with people where I don't know how the ventilation is for 2 hours and something, and touching armrests and touching, do I even want to be doing this when I have a beautiful stereo TV at home with all the nuts and bolts, and I can watch it there? And besides, Amazon Video and Netflix have put out some very top-notch theatrical
Content,
events.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why, and I'm already paying top dollar for both of them in a way. So why would I, except for the occasional thing that I have to see on a big screen, this may be a doomed experiment, because I think the horse left the barn with the pandemic. I really do. I think the horse left the barn.
Yeah, and I wonder about that too. And of course, I like it mentions Disney. It's like, I'm sorry, Disney's not going to go back. Disney's not going to go back. They know they've got the IP that people are going to want to watch. They've got Disney Plus that people are subscribing to left, right, and center, because they got all the good stuff there. And I mean, am I going to pay $30 to watch a new Disney movie? No, I'm not. But if they made it $10 above the Disney subscription, then we might talk. And again, especially as a single person, $30 is no, that I wouldn't pay $30 for any kind of movie when I can just wait and, again, get it through, Amazon or Netflix or Disney themselves.
In 45 days.
I think that,
yeah.
And one thing I think we forget is the movie theaters were already struggling before the pandemic. They were already having trouble getting people come in. I mean, before the pandemic, I think it was probably 5 years since the last time I set foot in a theater. And that was before 2020. And
you're not close to a theater where you are in Montana, though, right?
Well, I wasn't at the time, but I am now. I'm only 20 miles away from a nice theater. And I think that's something the theater owners are going to have to think about their ticket prices. They're going to have to think about what they
the
offer,
amenities,
the amenities, the cleanliness. Because let's be honest, I've got a nice TV with a nice sound system, and I can sit in my nice comfy recliner and watch in much more comfort in my room or my house than I can at a theater, which doesn't have as nice as seats.
And you can pause.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. And you can pause it if something happens. Or if you need to leave the room.
If you need to leave the room for a minute. Yes, exactly.
The food is cheaper. The drink is cheaper. I don't know if the theater here offers beer. I can have a beer. I like beer. I admit it. But popcorn's cheaper. It's a lot. Although theater popcorn is always so much better.
Yes, it is.
They put an addictive substance in it that makes you crave it fortnightly. No, sorry. I'm just quoting Sorry, Married an Axe Murderer.
But it's just there's so many advantages to doing it at home.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about being crowded next to someone and the sticky floor. And if you do at home, you've got problems cleaning. That's another story. There are so many advantages to watching at home that you don't have at the theater anymore.
And I tell you, I mean, as a family of 7, when we would go to see the new Star Wars movie, when it just came, that's the only movie that I took all the kids to. The kids we see Star Wars in the theater, and that's about the only movies we were seeing in person. And that's $110 or something along those lines. I think it was the last time I paid to take us all. That's a huge expense for my family, as opposed to $30, which I'd be glad to pay $30 to watch a movie with the whole family here, comfy when we want, at the time we choose, and able to pause and all that sort of nonsense. I agree. I think that I don't think this saves the theaters. I think we'll always have movie theaters, but I think we're going to see continued shakeout in the theater industry.
And I think it's going to trickle down to the Oscars. This year, because of the pandemic, they had to consider movies that were just released in streaming, which they didn't want to do last year. But now, and I think, again, the horse has left the barn, because some big studios have decided going with a Netflix or going with an Apple TV Plus is the way to go, because they're getting the money from them.
That's right. So I think it's yet another thing that I think coronavirus has changed in our society on a fairly permanent basis. All right. I think that does it for our headlines this week. Let's move on to our picks of the week. And Joanne, what's your pick this week?
Well, I'm going to get you to spend money if you want, and I'm coming back with something that, again, is still in the Indiegogo phase, but they've sold 3 million of them.
Wow.
And I had introduced everybody before to the Hyperjuice GAN charger, the 100-watt one, and that was the 4 slot. You got 2 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As. This one is smaller. It's a 65-watt, so you get 2 USB-Cs and 1 USB-A. However, it has a pass-through, so it's stackable. And it's not only stackable, you don't lose the outlet. So now you have, and it comes in a beautiful black instead of white. But again, I like these because instead of bringing 20 chargers with you when you decide to go away, and the next time we can get out and go on vacation, or even just for work purposes, when I'm going back and forth between churches, I can carry one charger now and plug everything into it. I really liked this, and I like the fact that it is stackable, because when you go to when we used to have meetings in person and there was one plug in the middle of the room, and everybody wanted that one plug, even at MC. Well, if you had one of these, this works. And right now they are on Indiegogo, and I'm just trying to get the price. If you can buy one for the pledge now is $48, I think, for the small. They have two versions now.
Yeah,
when
65.
I bought it was just the one.
Okay.
You can get the 65 or you can get the 100. But the 100 has 3 USB-Cs and only one USB-A, because I really don't have a lot of USB-A need anymore. Yeah, it's starting to move over to USB-Cs. So, but I think I'm using them. They haven't shocked me yet. So,
awesome.
And it's the same pull down plug as the other, so it folds away nice and easy.
Very nice. That's very nice. I like it, and it is compact enough where you could put it in a power strip and it won't take up everything like some of these do. That's nice.
When they say it's about the size of a container of chiclets or something like that, yeah, that's what it is.
Okay,
it's that small.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Father Corey, what's your pick?
So kind of a story to go along with this pick. Back in episode 65 of Secrets of Technology, you can hear about my Hackintosh system that I built. That was about a year ago, about 11 months ago. And it started getting glitchy. It started locking up. It started having freezes. Chrome and Facebook Firefox tabs started crashing. So I was thinking at first is, okay, this is a Hackintosh, so Mac OS, maybe there was an update that's causing problems with Mac OS that's causing these lockups, especially when I'm playing like games that are more memory intensive. So I switch over to Windows, and within a day, blue screen of death. Okay. First thing to test, memory. Because again, it was only when I was doing things like, say, watching a YouTube video while playing a video game, which is more memory intensive. So I download a program I've been familiar with since way back when, because this was originally open source back for Linux. You can still find it on Linux distros, called MemTest86. And what this is, it's a stress test for memory. Its purpose is to sit there and just pound your memory. And they've got newer version, they've got older version and newer version. The newer version is for the 64-bit systems. And it's absolutely fantastic. You load it on there's a free version, there's a pro version, and a site version. Free version is just what it says. One person sitting at home stress testing your machine. Pro version is for like a company. Let's say you're building computers, or you're a IT guy and you need to test computers. You can throw it on a memory stick, on a USB stick, go to a computer, reboot the computer, boot it up, and go. And then the site edition is you're a big corporation like SQPN and can buy, lots of them.
Yes,
and they
big
say
corporation.
it's, one corporation in one country. So like IBM would have to buy one for each country they work in, but that's still, they can afford that. But even the free edition is very feature filled. Its purpose, like I said, you throw it on, you rip it to an ISO, or copy it to an ISO, and it's got instructions how to do that from that ISO to a memory stick. You reboot the system off the memory stick and you walk away, and you just let it run. And you can do a lot with it too. You don't have to just fire it off. You can set up, I want to do these kind of tests. I want to do this kind of reporting. It logs everything it does. And so Dom, you saw that where I took the picture of it, where it failed. It found that, yes, one of my memory sticks had a bad chunk. The chunk of the memory stick went bad. So there was all these bytes that were flipping. Instead of, I should see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it would say 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would flip something. A byte would flip somehow. Some bit would get twisted so that the memory was bad. And I was able to use that to figure out exactly which memory stick was the bad one, and get it warranted. And that'll be another pick for another day, is the Corsair and their great customer service. But this tool showed me logs of, okay, here's the memory locations, here's what we expected, here's what we got. When it hit like 10,000 errors, it just put up a big red fail. It was really clear. You've got a problem. So MemTest 86.
And will this? So you run it on your Hackintosh, but will this run on a standard Mac or?
Yes, it will.
Oh, okay.
This will run on it will run on ARM. It will run, and now that being caveat,
an Intel
probably
Mac.
not ARM M1s yet.
Yes. Okay.
Yet. I'm sure they'll work on it. But yes, it will run. It should run on your standard MacBook Pro, iMac, runs on Hackintosh, runs on any, Intel-based system, definitely. And then again, some of the ARM systems as well. Because it's not just designed for like PCs, home users. This is something that you could run on, Google server farm if they're trying to figure out what's wrong with one system. Now, they usually don't. They just basically pull that system out, put a new one in, and deal with it later. But you could do, anything from just small individual PCs up to major servers. This is designed to run on. And it's one of those tools that if you're ever going to be trying to troubleshoot a problem with a computer, and it's something that I think your average home user could figure out to at least be able to say, okay, we've got a problem here. There's something wrong with the system. Okay, run this program. Oh, here's what it's showing me. Big red fail. Yeah, we've got a problem. So it's very excellent tool for this purpose. Here's, I'm going to throw my little political jab in. And here's the nice thing about building a Hackintosh. I can replace my memory. Apple can't. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Now that they solder it in.
Yeah. Bad memory leads to logic board swap out. Yes, that's the thing. All right, good. Thank you. That's a good pick. That's good to help people with their systems. All right, here's my pick. This is my ongoing effort to take your challenge, Father Corey. I think it was you who challenged me about all of my little apps that I run in my menu bar on my Mac to make them pixel weak. Because now this is what I'm going to do now from now on. So this one is called Mountain, and what it does is it's in just a little app that lives in the menu bar that lets you mount and eject external volumes easily, which it does more than that, though. So in addition to mounting and ejecting them, what you could do is you could have it mount certain volumes, whether it's a server volume or an external drive, at boot up. So sometimes, like, I always want to have my NAS drive folders available when I'm working, because I've got certain automations that run that move things off to my network attached storage. Whenever the computer boots up, I just want them always available. If they dismount, I want them to remount. If the NAS reboots, I want it to bring that back. So it'll keep some things always mounted. Or my clone drive, so I clone my hard drive every day, I always want that unmounted, because I don't want apps or launching from the clone drive or documents launching from the clone drive instead of from my main drive. So that clone drive is just backup. So it does that. It will also give you notifications when your drives mount or unmount. Sometimes you have a loose connection and the drive is like unmounting on its own. It can give you a list of recent servers. So you click on it and it will show you servers. You can easily remount servers just by clicking on them in the menu. It will tell you sometimes when you want to remove a drive or a server volume, it will say, oh, an app is using this drive, and doesn't tell you which one it is. This one will help you identify. This app will help you identify which ones are there. Now, a couple things. It says it's ready for macOS High Sierra, which is several operating systems back. However, and it doesn't get updated very often. I'm not even sure when the last time it was updated, but it still works. So keep that in mind. I am every time there's a system update, I'm waiting for it to break, and I have to go find a new thing like this, because there's nothing, I haven't found anything like that does all of this out there, but it keeps working, and so it's still out there. They did update it for when we went to Catalina. We had the 64-bit. Everything had to be 64-bit with Catalina, so it still works. So nice little app, very handy. I hardly ever have to think about it because it just does its job, and that's what you want. So I think that about does it for us now. If you have any comments, any feedback for us, any questions, you can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you can find links from our discussion and these picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. Remember to like our episodes of Secrets of Technology on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at SQPN. or leave us and leave us comments in those places. That's another way to contact us and have engage with our content, with our show. Until next time, Joanne Mercier, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks, Dom.
Father Corey Stika, thank you as well.
Thank you, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.